Hey everyone, thanks for joining us here at Book Blather. If you're new here, I'm Dave, this is Olive, and we try to have a little fun while we talk about books of all types to help spread the joy of reading. And one of those many types is that we sometimes read graphic novels and comics. And so we did a video very recently that was, comics. We always do our little rant that we wish more people realized how many quality adult stories there are out there in graphic novels. It is not all Superman and Wonder Woman. And so we did one recently that was comics not for kids. And so that's what this one is. This is really like another comics not for kids episode. These are graphic novels that are not for kids. They're adult stories, and they are all decent adult stories. So, and an interesting mix actually. So we're looking forward to talking about this. So we just recently read another four, and we're going to show them to you in the order that we read them, which happened to also be the order that increasing order of how good they were. So, so we'll start out with this first one. This one is The Possessed. So this was written by Jeff Johns, and there was two authors in here, Jeff Johns and Chris Grimminger, and it was the art was by Liam Sharp. So we hadn't heard of this, and this came out in 2004, so it's an old one. And we picked it up because it was Jeff Johns. And for those of you that are not know too much about the comic world, Jeff Johns is a phenomenal writer. He has written a ton of stuff of the superhero variety, and he became very big at DC Comics for a while. He became the creative director eventually because he really saved some properties there. You know, like Green Lantern was basically dead until Jeff Johns came along and resurged it, created a whole mythology about all different colored lanterns and everything. It really saved the franchise and really just made it big again. And he did that with a number of different properties there. Just great storyteller, great writer. And he ended up being involved in a lot of, the TV as well. But so anyway, so we picked it up because it was Jeff Johns. And so I have to say we were a bit disappointed when we read it. What it's about is, it says The Possessed. So it's about this team of people who, they're like a team that comes in to deal with possessions, and these were all people that had experienced possessions on their own. So they're all a little bit scarred, but they all can relate and know what it's like, and so they're equipped to deal with the dangers. And so it was an interesting premise, but I was expecting it to be phenomenal because it was Jeff Johns, but two things. One, he's got a co-author, so I don't know who really wrote how much of it. But also, this was back in 2004, so this is, I guess, when Jeff Johns was pretty much just getting his start. So he may not have had his real writing chops yet at that point. So it's not that it was awful. I mean, it was fine, but it wasn't that great. I don't know if I would recommend going out and picking it up. The art was pretty good, I have to say. I'll show you some of it. I mean, it wasn't phenomenal, but it was it was pretty good. And so, and this was a quick read. There wasn't there. It was a pretty quick one. So anyway, that's that. Okay, the next one, which was better. This is Frog Catchers by Jeff Lemire. So this is another one that I had not heard of, and I only got it because I found it in the wild for cheap, and I thought it looked interesting, and I'd read Jeff Lemire before, so he writes and illustrates this. It's got a very unique art style. It's black and white, and what this is about is you can kind of see, well, you can see it on the cover too, there's this man and this boy. So this man wakes up in the Edgewater Hotel, and he wakes up in this room, and he doesn't know he doesn't know why he's there. He doesn't know where he is, and he's very confused. And then he very quickly meets this boy, and this boy who's doesn't want him to go into this room, and there's some things coming, and so he's scared, and the little boy's trying to help him, and so he has these sort of little adventures with the boy around in the hotel and around the hotel, but he's also having like a lot of flashbacks, and so Of course, it's all interconnected, and I can't say too much more than that without spoiling it. But it was pretty good. It's different. I don't know if it's for everybody, but a lot of people like this old graphic novel called The Underwater Welder that Jeff Lemire did. And if you like the Underwater Welder, you will like Frog Catchers. It is the same type of thing. I mean, it's Lemire's art, so same type of black and white, sort of that sort of splashy, sort of that sort of art, and it's very much like Underwater Welder. It's very much about a personal journey, and has a heartbreaking ending. It's moving. It's a moving story, and so it was an interesting read. I'm glad I found this because I wouldn't have known about it if I hadn't just seen it out in the wild, and it was pretty good. It was pretty good. Okay, the next one is, this was really good. This is My Friend Dahmer by Derf Backderf. Okay, and so this was really good because, I mean, this was basically like a history graphic novel that was like a really interesting, engaging story. So this guy, the author of this, he was actually friends with Jeffrey Dahmer back in high school. And so this basically tells that story of so the author and artist of this he wasn't like good friends with Jeffrey Dahmer, but he like had his group of like 4 friends, and Jeffrey Dahmer was somebody that they associated with and hung out with. If they were going to have a sleepover, Jeffrey Dahmer wasn't going to get invited to that sleepover, but they did find him entertaining, and they Jeffrey Dahmer acted like a little weird and was willing to do funny things and odd things that would make them crack up in high school. And so they did hang around with him a bit and pal around and try to get him to do different things. And so he was kind of like a loose friend of theirs. And so this is, their experience with him in high school. So this kind of, it's they're telling a bit about who Jeffrey Dahmer was, shortly before he started his, and for those that don't know, Jeffrey Dahmer is one of the most notorious, serial killers of all time. And just, horrible stuff, killed a lot of men and boys and dismembered them and all sorts of stuff. But it was a long time before he was caught. He did a lot of that. And so this kind of talks about who Jeffrey Dahmer was shortly before he started down that long road of darkness. And it's interesting to see this guy's perspective that knew him, because you see how at the time Jeffrey Dahmer wasn't necessarily, he wasn't like a murderer yet. He was just somebody that was a little odd and lonely. And it's interesting getting that perspective of Jeffrey Dahmer shortly before things happened. So the art was pretty cool, I have to say, for this guy. I mean, this guy is just naturally a decent storyteller, and and could write and could draw okay. I mean, it's not the best. I mean, it's not my favorite art style in the world, but it's I think he did a pretty good job. So yeah, we would highly recommend this. I mean, we blew through this. I don't remember if we read it in one night or 2 nights, probably 2 nights, but I mean, we read this really fast. It was really, really engaging. So would highly, highly recommend this. My Friend Dahmer by Derf Backderf. Okay. And then the last one, and which is awesome. This is the volume 2 of World Tree by James Tynion. So we check out that cover. And so in the last graphic novel video, we talked about World Tree Volume 1, and we had just gotten World Tree Volume 2. So now we've read World Tree Volume 2, and this is so good, this series. So this one collects issues. This is a comic that comes out in single issue form. So this collects issues 6 through 11. It's kind of like the second arc, right? That's how we typically do in comics. They're usually like 6-issue arcs, like subplots, sub-stories. So, and this continues on the story after, big event in the first volume, and this just continues to be really really good. The basic premise is that this is there were these group of kids, young were I guess they were high school or early college. They were very young, and they're this sort of nefarious force had come on the internet, right? And as young people, they were able to stop it. They created this news group, World Tree, and they were and where they was their base, and they were able to shut this thing down. And then now years later, it has resurfaced, and it's basically it's called the Undernet, and it's sort of this. Obviously, I don't want to give too much away, but it's like another version of the internet. And so there's like there are these videos where you see these videos, and it like totally just ends up, you just watching it ends up controlling you, and can make you do like all sorts of things. And it's sort of like a peek into this other world behind the internet. And I guess I can't say too much more than that, but it is really cool. And so of course we meet other characters. It's not just these, but there's one of them that, like, the main guy, his sister is a different character in it. There's a couple detectives, and that's all. Different things happen to different people. I can't say too much, but it is really good. It's violent. It's pretty violent. There's a fair bit of killing. You can see it right. It's just like the last cover. You can see it there. But so it's a little disturbing, but it's really really good. I would highly recommend this. James Tynion has started out, I think, with doing some Batman and things, but he's done a number of different graphic novel series at this point. Another one we talked about recently called The Nice House on the Lake, which is also phenomenal. He's done a number of good, like, non-superhero type stories, and they're just one after another. He's just knocking it out of the park. And this is the best one that I've read so far. I'm sorry, that we read so far, right, Olive? We really are really enjoying this one, so highly recommended. So okay, so that does it, right? That does it for the latest batch of graphic novels. We read the Possessed, Frog Catchers, My Friend Dahmer, which we highly recommend, and World Tree, which we very highly recommend. So that's it. Let us know if you've read any of these, or you are thinking about reading any of them. If you have any thoughts on this, we always love to hear from you. But if you don't have anything substantive you want to say, you can always leave Olive a puppy emoji. You need another pick-me-up? You can always leave Olive a... Oh, they're in my other pocket, I guess. Yeah. You can always leave Olive a puppy emoji, because she does always like to see those. Almost as much as she likes these little treats, right? Not quite, but almost. All right? Okay, so thanks so much for watching, guys. As always, we'll see you again very soon. But in the meantime, take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you next time.